Welcome back everyone to another jikGeek in the week. This is episode 6 and it's been quite a while since we did one of these. So if you're joining us, it is amazing to have you with us as always. Before we get started, just a quick thanks to the massive success of the recent shorts, the recent videos. Welcome to all the new subscribers. It's great to have you with us on the channel. Thanks for supporting. Thanks for helping to grow the channel. It's all down to you. It's great to have you with us. If you're joining us in the chat, feel free to drop us a like, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And yeah, let us know what you think, what you're up to on a Sunday. Lots to talk about. Loads has happened since we've last spoke. And yeah, I think we'll just get straight into it. So we're going to start with an article from Deadline. So we're going to Deadline first. We haven't been with them for a while. I am following on the phone as usual, and I'm also following on OBS as well. So we've got the chat in two places, which is good. But I'll just be going through these articles one by one, just bringing all of us up to speed with the major kind of geek news. That's what we do best here on jikGeek in the week. We'll see how long this one goes for. We might do a Final Fantasy X No Sphere Grid stream later, depending on the time. And yeah, just depending on mostly the time, I think, really. Anyway, the sound's looking good. The visuals are looking good. I think we'll crack on. So yeah, like I said, we're starting with Deadline. We haven't been to Deadline for a while. And we start with our first topic today, which comes as a surprise to me, really. House of the Dragon Season 2 to get a shorter season. 8 episodes, apparently, according to most news outlets, and these are the rumours that are surfacing. I don't think anything has been confirmed yet, but my God, this is a turn of events, especially in the wake of what happened with Game of Thrones Season 8. Season 7 and 8, as we all are aware, was a complete and utter disaster. One of the major factors, though, in that happening was the fact that the seasons were a lot shorter. So, seasons 1 to 6, they always had 10 straight episodes. Seasons 7 and 8 had, I believe, 7, was it? 7 episodes. So, yes, season 7 had... Season 7 had 8 episodes, I believe, and Season 7 had 8 episodes, and Season 8 had 6 episodes. I think that's right. This was one of the turning points, and this was one of the major impacts that that impacted the storyline. Partly because they took the storyline and diverted the storyline away from the books far too much. But they left themselves with too much to do, Dan and Dave did, with only 2 seasons to go. B, they reduced their episode count. And C, well, that just meant that they had to cram as much as they could into these 13 episodes. Now, what we've had from George R.R. Martin in interviews, etc., since then, is him being quoted that we should have got at least 10 seasons, probably could have gone as high as 13 seasons. And this sounds about right. As an avid book fan, as a Song of Ice and Fire fan, this sounds about right, really. We could have got a lot more. And they cut major storylines. They cut Young Griff, they cut Lady Stoneheart, they cut the massively impactful Dawn storyline, because in the books, Dawn is massive. Now, what I hope this isn't for House of the Dragon Season 2 is going on the same track, going on the same way as Game of Thrones 7 and 8 did, Season 7 and 8 did, because it's already smelling like that. It's already smelling in the same way as what we got with Game of Thrones season 7 and 8. So let's get on to the article. Let's see what Deadline have got to say. So, exclusive. The upcoming second season of House of the Dragons will consist of 8 episodes, 2 fewer than season 1 of the Critics' Choice Award winning Game of Thrones prequel. It is part of a long-term plan for the show, which includes HBO mulling a green light for the 3rd season, I have learnt. The news comes as production is about to begin with season 2 in the UK for a likely summer 24 premiere. Well, we haven't got long to wait then. In what is relatively a common practice, HBO did not reveal the episode order in the season 2 renewal announcement last summer. The initial plan was for another 10 episode arc, which eventually changed, leading to some script rewrites. Given the leadership change at HBO's parent company, some pointed at Warner Brothers Discovery's leadership focused on cost cutting, which we've seen elsewhere in DC. We've seen with the potential offshoot of other properties such as the Zack Snyder's Justice League to the Netflix. There's a lot of rumours there. And a lot of other projects have either been curbed, rewritten, or reduced in aid of this massive cost-cutting initiative by HBO, by Warner Brothers Discovery. A HBO spokesperson who confirmed to Deadline that season 2 will contain 8 episodes stressed that the episode count trim was story-driven. How do we take that, though? Is that good story being axed? Is that to ensure that we don't get a bloated season? Is that to ensure that all 8 episodes are true to the books? We'll get into that because I think we need to probably discuss some of the article first, just to see if there's any more details that surface. So, it has been reported that House of the Dragon's creative team have envisioned the series running for 3 or 4 seasons. I hear executive producer showrunners Ryan Condal, working with author-exclusive producer George R.R. Martin, took a step back as season 2 was being put together to take a big picture view of the series, which follows Martin's Fire and Blood and figure out the overall narrative flow, including how to break up the story season to season and what battles to include when. As part of that, I hear season 3 has been mapped out and might be greenlighted, with HBO seriously considering committing to moving ahead with scripts, casting, and a production plan, as the network is trying to think long term instead of season to season. Well, that sounds good, and it's great that they're thinking strategically on this. What I don't want, though, is to spoil the success that they've had already. Equally, what I don't want them to do as well, though, is cram in a load of crap that we don't want to see in season 2. But it makes me think that they're going to rush some of these episodes just to get to either some of the more impressive storylines, such as Blood and Cheese, or some of the battles that we see halfway in the Dance of the Dragons, because cometh the end of season 1, that is the start of when the Dance of the Dragons begins in the books. So what I'll see with it, well, to be fair, Blood and Cheese really kickstarts this off, because it is retaliation of what happened with Lucerys and what we saw with that great climactic finish on top of Dragonback with Lucerys and I forget his name now, the one-eyed guy. It'll come to me. Anyway, what this means is, though, is I'm mixed about what this means, because it could mean that we get a really, really top-tier 8-episode arc for the season, but also it could mean that we rush towards things like Blood and Cheese and some of the more climactic, massive battles that I do expect in season 2. What I have heard, though, and we probably will maybe get onto this into the article, is that season 2, episode 9 and 10 have been cut because they want to kickstart season 3 off either with the continuation of a battle or the start of a battle itself. So what does that mean? I don't really know. What I anticipated for season 2 was for them to rewrite some of the narrative in order to make Blood and Cheese more of like a red wedding type of event, just like we got in season 3 of Game of Thrones, where book 3, Storm of Swords, was cut into 2 seasons over season 3 and season 4. Maybe that happens here with season 2, and we get the first part of season 2 being kind of the start of that middle, the second part of that middle being season 3, and then that climactic, massive, epic fight scene all across the, there's multiple fight scenes going on. The Dragonback fight scene that we get with on the Dragonback with Daemon Targaryen and it's not Aegon. Who is it? It's going to bug me now, that is. Gonna bug me. Let me just get his name. The blacks, that's what we want. No, sorry, it's the greens. Aemond Targaryen. Yeah, so hopefully season 4 ends with that massive climactic Dragonback epic fight scene between Daemon Targaryen and Aemond Targaryen, because that would be absolutely epic. What that means is, though, is that I think there'll be potential changes to the books where they'll do some jiggery pokery with the story and end up putting Blood and Cheese at the end, unless they have a mid-season finale as they did with season 1 with that wedding scene, and where we had the wedding of we had the wedding scene. So I think there'll be some. They may end up finishing half of season 2 with Blood and Cheese, and then the rest of season 2 will be the aftermath of that and some of the fight scenes that follow on in the books. What I suspect is, though, is that they will keep true to the books, which is great, because Ryan Condal and George R. R. Martin are still at the helm of this. They're not going anywhere by the sounds of it, and they are looking to stick closely to the books, which is fantastic. With a portion of the plot originally intended for season 2, including a major battle, moving to season 3, I hear it is now more likely that the series would run for 4 seasons, but that has not been determined as Condal and Martin continue to go back and forth on the number of seasons, 3 or 4. That would be optimal to tell the full story, sources said. This is the classic example of what happened with Game of Thrones season 7 and 8. George Martin wanted 13. I think Dan and Dave wanted 6, and they ended up eventually ended up with 8 seasons. The Game of Thrones could have gone for at least 10 seasons. Now, I really hope that they don't cram everything into 3 seasons. I mean, why would they? Why wouldn't they go for 4 seasons here? Because it will be a massive blockbuster. Now, thinking about the books in terms of Fire and Blood, there is a lot of battles that happen between the end of Blood and Cheese and the battle over the God's Eye. There's a hell of a lot of stuff. We've got all of the new dragons, the new dragon riders. We've got loads of Targaryen killings. We've got the battle in King's Landing. And then all of this culminates into that massive God's Eye battle between Aemond and Damien. And then obviously we move then towards the aftermath of all this, and I think it's Aegon the Third. His reign starts then, because that's the end of this story. But also what we've got is the point I've just made, that some of the plot that was intended to finish season 2, which is one of the major battles in the book, is now being moved to season 3 according to this article, which is quite disappointing, but it makes me believe and question how they are going to finish season 2, whether that's with Blood and Cheese or whether that's some new content potentially, or whether they finish with the aftermath of Blood and Cheese, and that's why they are finishing season 2 early and starting season 3 with the repercussions of season 2, Blood and Cheese plotline with the battle. Because from what I recall in Fire and Blood, there is a battle that follows shortly on from Blood and Cheese. I can't remember what it's called, but there is a battle, obviously the repercussions, the retaliation of Blood and Cheese from the Greens, from Aegon II and from Alicent. In an October blog post, Martin spoke of the fact that HBO series like Sopranos used to get 13 episodes a season, which had changed to 10 by the time Game of Thrones came along. Now, I think 10 episodes is perfect. Obviously, there was a bit of jumping about in season 1, and a lot of people didn't like that, but coming from an avid book reader, this definitely told the story very well. The Emmy Award-winning fantasy juggernaut produced 6 10-episode seasons, leading into the final 13-episode chapter that was split into 2 seasons. This is more than the 8-episode seasons of Amazon's Lord of the Rings of Power, he noted. I mean, comparing it to other shows doesn't really make sense. Comparing it to Game of Thrones, though, and comparing it to House of the Dragon, season 1 makes sense, because like I said at the start, what we've seen is, history doesn't favour shorter seasons with Game of Thrones. There's that much detail, there's that much that needs to be said and needs to be brought to life. It always favours that we've had the 10-episode seasons. I mean, even though seasons 5 and season 6 of Game of Thrones didn't stick to the books, what it did was have still enough time to build that story, to tell epic parts of the books that were included, and to make sure that we got some massive epic cutscenes like Hardhome, like the Winds of Winter episode, and like the Battle of the Bastards. So, right, where are we? I'm thrilled that we still have 10 hours every season to tell our tale, Martin said about House of the Dragon. I hope that will continue to be true. It is going to take 4 full seasons of 10 episodes each to do justice to the Dance of the Dragons from start to finish. Now, I was watching a video from Talking Thrones, great channel. If you're not subscribed already, check out his channel. If I can remember, I'll put his channel description link in the description below. Feel free to go and check him out. Subscribe to him if you haven't already. He does some great Game of Thrones news content, and he's always kind of bringing these news stories as and when they drop. What he said, though, and I thought it was a great point, is that House of the Dragon Season 2, yes, it may have 8 episodes, but what we might get is similar to the approach that they took in season 7 and 8, where we get longer episodes, but we do get that 10 hours. And that could be an approach that they take, definitely with the Blood and Cheese storyline, because the aftermath of season 1's climactic ending with the dragon battle and Damon and Rhaenyra finding out is the Blood and Cheese event. Now, if you don't know what Blood and Cheese is and you don't want to be spoiled, I suggest you stay away from Googling those terms in relation to House of the Dragon, because it will reveal what happens in season 2. But for those that have read the books, we all know what's going to happen. It's just when that storyline takes place in season 2. Now, because this is an 8-episode season, it makes me believe that there is more of a delay to that, because it happens quite quickly in the books. There'll be a delay to that in season 2, and then we will get some of the aftermath in the latter episodes of season 2. But then we'll get some of the more major battles in season 3 at the start of those episodes. Right, just to round off this this article, then, House of the Dragon is set 172 years before the events of Game of Thrones, and tells the story of House Targaryen. Warner Brothers Discovery's new regime embraced the series last summer, supporting the $200 million production with the biggest marketing campaign in HBO's history, which reached 130 million people. It led to a big ratings splash for the series, which was followed by a season 2 renewal a few days later. I mean, it was a massive success, House of the Dragon season 1. I loved every single episode, albeit there were some ups and downs, albeit there were some that were better than others. I thought it told what was a very, very difficult start to the Dance of the Dragon storyline in a great fashion. It touched on all the major story points. It touched on all of the major plot points that we needed to cover, from the death of Jaehaerys, the struggle for the throne, all the way up to what we got, which was Lucerian's death by the hands of Aemond and his dragon. House of the Dragon stars Paddy Considine, Matt Smith, Olivia Cook, Emma Darcy, Stephen Toussaint, Eve Best, Fabian Frankel, Sonoya Mizuno, and Reese Fans. Condell and Martin executive produce, with Sarah Hess and Vince Gerardis. Season 2 director and season 1 director Miguel Sapochnik. Well, I think we covered this on one of the previous jikGeek in the Week episodes. Miguel Sapochnik, I don't think is returning for season 2, partly because he wanted to take a step back from these Game of Thrones, these House of the Dragon productions, partly because, though, I don't think his wife got a part to play in season 2 going forward, which is a shame. I mean, Miguel Sapochnik has done probably and arguably some of the, if not the greatest episodes of Game of Thrones, and had a massive helping hand with some of the production, or most of the production of season 1. So it's a big loss in my eyes, because where we do get, and maybe actually thinking about it now, this is why he's dropped from season 2. Maybe this is another reason why he's dropped from season 2, is because there won't be big budget action battles in season 2. Maybe it is more about the story. Maybe it is more about Blood and Cheese, which is a very character, story intense, dramatized story plot that we get from the Fire and Blood books. And you could arguably make a season dedicated to Blood and Cheese that doesn't include a massive battle. Miguel Sapochnik really shines when it comes to the massive battles, and maybe this is why he's taking a back seat in season 2. Maybe he'll come back for seasons 3 and 4, and if there's a season 5, for these massive battles, because at the end of season 2, all there is left is massive battles, whether that's sword and shield, whether that's on Dragonback, whether that's between dragon on dragon. That's all we are left with in seasons 3 and 4. I hope there are 4 seasons, because I don't think they can tell the rest of that story. I think there's probably about half a dozen massive battles to do. And you've got all of the new Dragon Riders, you've got all of the Corlys Valerian plot lines, and you've got all of the, like I said, the Daemon and Aegon fight scenes. You've got the stuff with Nettles. So there's a lot to do. There'll be a lot to cram into season 3, and I just hope that's not the case. So, I mean, let me know what you think in the comments about your thoughts on season 2, if you've read the books, what you think's going to happen. I'm really looking forward to it. Roll on 2024. It does seem, though, that it's a long time since season 1, and they should have capitalised on the impact, the success, and the popularity of season 1 a lot earlier in my eyes. This is a bit of a shortcoming. This is a bit of a mistake that HBO have done. But nonetheless, it's great that we're getting season 2. It's great that that's been greenlit. And it's great that they're already talking about greenlighting season 3 as well. So I think watch this space. We'll be covering all House of the Dragon news up until and including season 2 reviews as to when it comes out. Okay. If you are joining us in the chat, it's great to have you with us. As usual, thanks for all the comments, the likes, the subscribes recently. The channel's been growing massively, more than I expected. We've been pumping out that shorts content recently. Mostly, if not all of it, I think is to do with our recent Ant-Man 3 review. So if you didn't check that out, make sure you do check it out on the channel. We did cover a lot of the faults that was to do with Ant-Man 3 and what the impact was on the MCU Phase 5 and Phase 6. So if you haven't checked those out, either the shorts content or the review is only about 6 or 7 minutes long. Feel free to do so on the channel. Now, talking of Ant-Man 3 is Kang the Conqueror, Jonathan Majors. He's been a bit of a naughty boy. He's been arrested. And Marvel Studios reportedly are discussing options with the actor's agent. Now, what a disaster this would be if Kang the Conqueror needed to either be dropped or changed or adjusted. What an absolute disaster this would be for Marvel Studios and the MCU, particularly in Phase 5 and really for Phase 6. I mean, what do? Do they change course with Kang? Do they do they change the actor? Do they change the plot line? Because, I mean, if you've checked out the review, my opinion on Kang at the moment is that he's been massively disrespected. He looks very weak as a villain. Not even just as a single Marvel movie villain, but as he's meant to be this big bad. He's meant to be the next Thanos, and we haven't really seen that. He's already been defeated. You could arguably say he's been defeated 3 times already. Once by Sylvie, which was a knockoff version of Loki at the end of Loki Season 1 TV show on Disney+. Once by his own people, or by his own variants, by the hands of the other Kangs. And once, now, by Ant-Man and the Wasp, which was arguably one of the most disastrous fight scenes I've seen in the MCU since we've got... since day one. So for a villain who's meant to be the big bad, the next Thanos, he hasn't done very well so far, and this doesn't look good at all. This doesn't look good for him. But let's see what the article says. So we're going to the direct on this one. Yeah, this is just another kick in the teeth, another blow for Disney for what has been quite arguably their worst year so far. Right, Marvel Studios. Marvel Studios is reportedly deliberating its options for Kang actor Jonathan Majors as the actor remains in hot water following an assault arrest. Jonathan Majors was arrested on Saturday, March 25th for the strangulation, assault and harassment of his 30-year-old girlfriend. The actor has since gone to length to prove his innocence, with the lawyer going as far as to call him probably the victim, whatever that means, and claiming there are numerous pieces of evidence to support this. The charges are already showing an impact on Major's rising acting career, with the US Army having promptly pulled an ad campaign featuring the star. This is just the snowball effect. Let's read on before I make any I'll give you my 2 pence. Marvel Studios deliberates Jonathan Majors' Kang fate. This is not looking good for Marvel, for Jonathan Majors, or for Kang the Conqueror's part to play in the MCU going forward. It really isn't. Days after Jonathan Majors' arrest and many developments later, Marvel Studios continue to remain silent on the situation surrounding the Kang actor. While speaking on the Hot Mic podcast, insider Jeff Snyder revealed the studio hasn't made any decisions on the Marvel star's future in the franchise, but has been in contact with Major's agent to discuss potential options going forward. And I quote, "I've heard that Marvel hasn't made any decisions regarding Jonathan Major, but they've met or spoken with his agent to discuss potential options going forward." Look, innocent until proven guilty, I think the old saying goes, and I think that's what Marvel are waiting for here. Is he at fault? Is this been blown out of proportion? If he is guilty, that's when they need to make a categorical decision that may impact the future of the MCU here. I mean, what are really their options? What are their options? Marvel, Disney Marvel, sack him and get someone else. Continue with him and put faith in that he isn't going to be a naughty boy going forward and he's going to be squeaky clean, or change Kang as a villain. God knows. This is a really, really interesting predicament that Marvel are in, I think. Major's already filmed his next MCU appearance some time ago, with the actor set to return as Kang variant Victor Timely in Loki Season 2, who, by the way, is the Kang that we saw in the post-credit scene of Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. Although there have been rumours the Disney Plus series will feature more Kangs, I have no doubt it will. The actor has been charged with several assault and harassment misdemeanours, having been accused of assaulting his 30-year-old girlfriend. Major completely denies his guilt with the MCU star's legal team, and having released text messages between the couple which they claim to prove his innocence. I mean, look, I think he's a great actor. I think he's done well as Kang. I just think he's been massively disrespected as a villain so far. When he's on screen, except for when he was in Loki Season 1, he was a complete clown then. When he was on screen, I think he's a really good actor and he plays Kang very well. Kang looks the part. He looks like he did in the animated series, and he looks like he does in the comics. I think they've done a great job with his costume. Some people don't like his blue screen mask. I thought that added something to his character and to his costume. I just think, the story arcs that he's been on, the character development that he's had, the introduction he's had, and the part to play he had with Ant-Man and the Wasp and being defeated 3 times already just hasn't boded well for the character of Kang the Conqueror yet. What this means in Phase 5, he needs to be seen as an absolutely formidable opponent to either the Avengers or the other Kangs. Without that, he's just going to be a bit of a flop, I think. Marvel Studios' biggest dilemma yet. Well, absolutely, this is one of their biggest dilemmas. This could be an absolute disaster for the MCU Phase 5. And I mean, we've just gone over some of the options that they got. Do they write him out? Do they change him? Do they recast him? Those are the options. Those are some of the best options. Jonathan Majors was only arrested 5 days ago at the time of writing, so the studio will probably want to allow more time before deciding what action to take. They will want to avoid taking any rash or impulsive action, particularly as Majors' team claims to have a host of evidence proving his innocence. Marvel Studios is undoubtedly one of the toughest positions yet here, having built this whole saga and the next 3 years of storytelling about Major's Kang. This situation only gets tougher when looking at the reviews for Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania and seeing how almost all the limited praise was for Major's acting. It was for Major's acting, and yes, he did do a good job, but Marvel or the MCU or Disney Marvel have basically shit on Jonathan Majors as Kang so far. He has been a disaster in my eyes. When he's on screen, though, he plays a really good part. He's got a very commanding presence. I've heard he played a very good job in Creed 3. Right, let's just... I think this is the... Yep, the final bit. But it's no surprise that executives at Marvel Studios would take spoken with the actors, agents and possibly Majors himself to examine all options, including continuing forward with the actor, perhaps dialing back the scale of Kang's role, which would be a complete disaster because Kang is the new Thanos, or even recasting the multiverse villain with another star. That's arguably one of the probably more probable options going forward. The situation will undoubtedly continue to have many twists and turns in the coming days and weeks. The Direct will continue to share new updates on this, and will be continued to share updates on this on jikGeek when they drop. I mean, this could be blown out of proportion. This could blow over arguably in the next few days, in the next week or so, or this could blow up the MCU and put their disastrous streak to another level. Yeah, right. Hope you're enjoying the stream so far. I'm having a blast. It's been a while since we've done one of these. Yeah, I've missed doing this. Missed doing a Final Fantasy X No Sphere Grid as well. That's been a while since we've put out one of those. I think we're on episode 11 now, and I think we've got that epic cutscene, wedding crashing cutscene to come. So if you're a Final Fantasy fan, if you've been following the series so far, depending on the time after we go live, yeah, it would be likely, well, there's a potential that we're going to drop a couple of hours stream on that as well. Probably have some dinner first and then yeah, see what time it is. Anyway, let me know what you're up to on Sunday. Let me know where you're commenting from. If you're a subscriber to the channel, thanks a lot. If you're not, consider joining the channel. It always helps. We're trying to grow. We're trying to get to that pivotal 100 and 50 first, then 100, then 1,000 subscriber milestones. We've had some great successes and great growth so far recently. So yeah, thanks thanks a lot for tuning in. So here's what's killing The Mandalorian Season 3. Now, off the bat, I haven't watched Season 3 yet. I meant to watch it before my holiday with the missus. We did some wedding stuff. I meant to watch it during the holiday, but didn't get around to downloading it. Didn't get around to watching it throughout the holiday. Was meant to watch it after the holiday. Haven't had a chance to do that yet. So I can't quite possibly comment on whether it's good or bad yet. All I've heard, though, is bad press about this. All I've heard is negative feedback. All I've heard is it's an absolute shadow of where it was compared to Season 1 and Season 2. Now, my thoughts on Season 1, it was pretty good, probably a 8 out of 10. Season 2, up until the last episode, was probably a 7 out of 10. There was some dodgy, very low tier episodes, but that epic, I think it was the 8th episode, was one of my favourite episodes of TV ever. Luke Skywalker literally saved the day. Now, what this sounds like is The Mandalorian Season 3 featuring Bo-Katan. Because, yeah, I'm a fan of Bo-Katan. And I think, is it Katie Sackhoff? I think that's what her name is, who plays the role of Bo-Katan. She does a great job. She did a great job in Season 2. She did the voice of Bo-Katan in the anime. You know, she played Bo-Katan in the anime. I thought she did very well with Ahsoka Tano in the anime as well. And it'd be great to see those two coming together. Maybe they do. I'm unsure yet. But all I've heard is bad news about Season 3 so far. And it's nowhere that it needs to be. But let's dive in to see what the crack is here and what some of the potential factors is about what's killing The Mandalorian Season 3. So we're coming from Collider. We haven't been to Collider before, I don't think, but they are an avid Star Wars channel, blogists, etc. Here's what's killing The Mandalorian Season 3. The Mandalorian remains a popular and fun show, but it's taking a risk that could deter the casual Star Wars fans. I mean, really, that's what made Mandalorian Season 1 such a success. Not only was it a great pick-me-up for, legacy Star Wars fans, but it was also easy enough for the normies to get on board with. It had everything that we wanted. It was Star Wars in space. It was Star Wars cowboys. It had gunfights. It had lightsabers. It had Baby Yoda, which in my eyes was a great addition. And The Mandalorian, Pedro Pascal does an absolute epic job as The Mandalorian. It had lore. It went back to its roots as well. I thought it did a great job of going back to its roots. So the following contains minor spoilers from Season 3, Episode 5 of The Mandalorian. I'm not too bothered about being spoiled. I'm going to watch it eventually. And we'll probably do a Mandalorian review at some point if I can get in watching some episodes this week. We'll probably do like a mid-season review. I think there's only been 5 episodes out so far, so we could do like a 1 to 3 or a 1 to 4, depending on how many episodes there are. Right. The Mandalorian remains one of the most popular shows going on Disney+, and it still is a constant trending topic with each new episode that releases. Yet something feels slightly off in the progression of Season 3. While this week's episode tapped back into the roots of the show with its episodic mission, the bulk of this new chapter has always felt detached. Pointing a finger at one thing isn't easy to do either. Din Djarin, Pedro Pascal has taken a backseat this season, with Bo-Katan, Katie Sackhoff becoming the de facto lead. Just what I said at the start of this article. There's no doubt her story has taken centre stage this time around. Grogu remains prevalent, but outside of one mission to rescue Din, he's been relegated back to being a lovable, memorable character who doesn't have a real purpose. I mean, that's okay with Baby Yoda because this is The Mandalorian. This is not Baby Yoda show. It's a shame that The Mandalorians took a back seat, and although Katie Sackhoff does a great job of Bo-Katan, again, this isn't the Bo-Katan show. Yes, she's arguably a Mandalorian, but this is the Mandalorian, our Mandalorian, Pedro Pascal, the Mandalorian. What I don't want this to do, and it sounds like this is happening already, is we're trying to put other Mandalorian characters like Bo-Katan on a pedestal, and either, our Mandalorian, Pedro Pascal, Din Djarin, is taking a back seat and we're trying to prop up other Mandalorian characters. Whether they're trying to do this for a Bo-Katan spin-off show, whether we're trying to do this to create more of a shared universe, more of a Mando-verse, as opposed to just focusing on Pedro Pascal, the Mandalorian, in its entirety, that remains to be seen. I mean, that is where I think this is all going. This is all creating this Mandoverse. And what I would love to see, and as I've said before, is a shared universe. Ahsoka Tano, Bo-Katan, Baby Yoda, Luke Skywalker, the Mandalorian, all coming together, fighting some big bad baddie and kicking ass together. If you had to sum up what is going on this season, it's a lot harder to do that in the prior seasons, where there was a clear objective of Din saving Grogu and they're returning him to safety. Now it all seems convoluted. There are a lot of different plots happening with no set objective. Yeah, this is one of the failures of what happened in season 2. I think there were a lot of kind of individual stories and not really much contributing to a wider story arc. It felt that way at the end of season 2 with the Luke Skywalker thing. They may have been trying to start to build that Mandoverse, but I was very disappointed with some of the episodes in season 2. It really feels like this is happening again with season 3. And from what I've heard, Nerdrotic, The Critical Drinker, others, they've really slated this and they've basically, questioned where is this going? Because right now, from what I'm reading, it's not contributing to a wider story arc. It's not really certain on where it wants to go. And what I believe this is from is meddling from the higher-ups in Lucasfilm, meddling from the higher-ups such as Kathleen Kennedy and Jon Favreau. Yes, he is quote-unquote, still at the helm of The Mandalorian, but it seems to me more fingers are in this pie, which is a shame because Jon Favreau, Dave Filoni, they've done a great job, or they did a great job, but the more others put their nose in this, the worse it gets, the more it goes on the decline. Stay away, please, higher-ups at Disney. Just let John and Dave do their best thing, because if it was left up to them, this would be the greatest thing on TV right now. If you had to sum up what was going on this season, it's a lot. Oh, we've been over that thing. Where are we? There is one thing that has become all too apparent with each episode, and that's the show tapping into the animated world of Rebels and the Clone Wars, which more than it ever has done. It's not easy for newcomers to learn the history in between episodes. With a growing reliance on characters and stories from a sector of Star Wars fandom that compromises 11 seasons worth of content, it begins to lose the casual viewers. Now, whilst I'm a fan of Star Wars, I would probably say I'm a casual fan. More casual than the normies, but less of a fan than some of those that, are Star Wars through and through. I mean, Star Wars Theory, the biggest Star Wars fan on YouTube, nowhere near that sort of level. But I've watched some of the Rebels, I've watched a lot of the Clone Wars before, and I'm up to speed with a lot of the characters. But, if I was to watch this with my missus or my brother, they're not, normies, should I say, they wouldn't have a clue what's going on. Whereas, cast my mind back to season 1 and 2 of The Mandalorian, we could probably pick that up. You could jump in at any point really there and have a clue about what's going on. It's a shame really that they're delving into the Rebels and the Clone Wars storylines, because it is very, very lore focused. It is very lore intensive. It is very lore heavy. And that may sound good to some of the more Star Wars centric fans, but The Mandalorian has always been a show that scratches the itch that the heavy fans wanted, and also allows the normies to come on board with this, tapping into some of the more lore heavy storylines. I think it's the wrong direction to go here. They've got to build something that is very, very fresh, that feels Star Wars, but also that allows the normies to bring on. And I think that's probably one of the reasons why stuff like the Marvel, at least in phases 1, 2 and 3, succeeded. Yes, it tied in with the storylines from the comics. Yes, it did a great job of introducing players like Captain America, like Iron Man, like Thor, bringing them up from tier B, C, Avengers level superheroes to the kind of A or even S tier superheroes now. But it allowed the normies to get involved, to get on board, and I think that's why Infinity War and Endgame was such a massive success. That's what they need to do here. They just need to bring the normies on board. The Mandalorian is relying too much on prior knowledge. I mean, exactly to my point. Relying on prior knowledge, prior lore, and not building anything new is lazy writing. Yes, build something new. Yes, tie it in with previous lore, but don't rely so solely on previous lore that A, you're not building new stuff, B, you're not developing the characters that you've established in season 1 and 2, and C, you then become a real shadow of what we've already seen. They're not contributing to the future of the Mandalorian show. This needs to have an overarching story that everyone can get involved with, that builds excitement, that builds fascination. Yes, that ties in with previous lore, but yes, that brings in characters that we've seen in seasons 1 and 2, like Ahsoka Tano, like Bo-Katan, like Luke Skywalker, but then contributes to a massive story arc that will end in, say, season 4 or 5, for instance. But that is good enough and is simple enough that the normies can get involved with. That's when a show goes from being popular with the fans, with the lore fans, to being a massive success. And for this to get more seasons, it needs to be a massive success. Disney are on a path at the moment that if their shows are not successful, they'll cut them. I don't suspect the book of Boba Fett will get a season 2. I suspect that will be cancelled because it was a failure. Now, I don't want that to happen with Mandalorian because I'm a massive fan of the show and I want this to be a success. I want this to be exciting. I want this to contribute to something bigger than it is. And I want this to take the Star Wars brand in a way that, yes, goes away from the sequel trilogy and also ties in with previous Star Wars lore, but also builds new stories, new exciting stories that we can see, and that, brings in things like lightsabers, Jedi, the Sith, but keeps to the Mandalorian points, Baby Yoda, the gunfights, more Mandalorian lore as well. Ahead of season 3, there were already questions about how the show would handle its season 2.5, which encompassed the back half of the book of Boba Fett. Didn't watch the show, didn't have any interest in watching it, heard it was a complete disaster, the book of Boba Fett season 1, and like I said, I don't think it will get a season 2. What it annoys me is the fact that, arguably to get an understanding of season 3 Mandalorian, you may have had to have watched the book of Boba Fett. I really hope that that's not the case. Over those few episodes, there were some serious narrative advancements and pivotal moments. Din had 2 of his best and coolest scenes, and arguably what was the only good parts of the Book of Boba Fett Season 1, when he first wielded the Darksaber and when he battled with Paz Vizsla. He even visited the Jedi Academy, where he has interacted with Ahsoka Tano once again. I mean, they sound cool, but to label that as the Book of Boba Fett, this might as well have been, some of Mandalorian Season 3. A lot happened when he became the de facto lead of that series, yet how many fans watched that as well as The Mandalorian? I didn't. I'll probably go back and cherry pick some of them episodes, because I know there were some of the better episodes of not just the Book of Boba Fett, but what we've seen from The Mandalorian so far. There's certainly a large crossover of fans who watch everything and anything Star Wars, but The Mandalorian was a show that not only appeased the diehards, but also brought along the casuals and the first-time viewers. exactly my point. Exactly my point. This needs to be something that casual fans and first-time viewers can get on board with, can interact with, can get invested in. It sounds like season 3 has gone too much into the lore, whereas it needs to develop these stories, yes, in line with the lore and not shitting on the lore, but also bringing these characters to a new place. If you didn't watch the Book of Boba Fett, it's not totally leaving you in the dark. Well, that's a good thing with season 3. But it's also unfair of the show to ask its viewers to not miss anything that goes on in the universe either. Sounding a lot like what's happening with Disney Plus Marvel shows, where some of the critical plot points are now being sprinkled into the movies. That's what's so amazing about phases 1 to 3 with the MCU. You didn't have any shows. You didn't have any offshoots. It was all... You rock up to the cinema. It's all there. You don't have to watch anything else, and you understand movie on movie. Yes, you have a kind of intimate story within that movie itself, but everything contributed towards this wider narrative. This is an issue that isn't going away anytime soon, as many of the large franchises are utilising different shows and mediums to intertwine stories. Exactly my point again. It sounds like I've bloody written this article. I'm getting on for time. Already an hour in. For those that join us in the chat, it's great to have you with us. Yeah, love that we're back doing jikGeek in the week. Love that we've got some live chat followers. Great to have you with us. You know, always good. Let me know what your thoughts are in the comments. Let me know what you want to hear this week. You know, if I've got some time, we'll do another jikGeek in the week this week. Let me know what news articles you think we should be covering, what news. The ask for viewers is to have all of this prior knowledge doesn't stop there either. It's one thing to cross journeys among shows that air on the same streaming service, where those who watch The Mandalorian can easily see a new show in the Star Wars universe is releasing new episodes. The problem is that there are just too many television shows going on, not just with Disney Plus, but across the gamut. I'm guessing that means across like the whole streaming platform itself. The Mandalorian grew to be so popular as a result of its ability to transcend the universe. I mean, it's great. The fact that we can nip about the Star Wars universe and interact with all of the different lore, all of the different races. You know, one day we had it's proper Star Wars in space. The next minute it's a cowboy. The next minute it's proper Star Wars on the ground with the lightsabers and the sword fighting. You know, it's tapping into all of the different things that made Star Wars fantastic and made the brand as popular as it was. But it was simple. And I think that was such a good thing that The Mandalorian Season 1 and even really Season 2 had going for it. Yeah, it was simple, but you could get on board, you could get invested. It was an easy watch. This Season 3 doesn't sound like an easy watch. It was a simple show with the premiere of one person having to save another for the first 2 seasons. There wasn't a need for viewers to know the politics of this world, what Order 66 was, what a Purrgil is. Season 2 made a big swing when it brought in a pair of Jedis to this world in Luke Skywalker and the aforementioned Ahsoka Tano. What that also did, though, was open up this series to far more lore than its audience may want. I think that's a good thing, though. What they should have done was capitalise massively on the introduction of Luke Skywalker and Ahsoka Tano and brought, you know, these lightsabers, these Jedi-wielding characters on board with the grander narrative. Now, Order 66 played a massive part in the Star Wars films. It also played a massive part in the Clone Wars series. And if Order 66 has been brought up again within Mandalorian Season 3, I personally think that's a good thing because it's such a pivotal moment in Star Wars lore that they probably just need to explain it more. They probably just need to get you know, more or better dialogue to introduce the thinking behind Order 66. I mean, it sounds like there are a lot of callbacks to some of the anime, different shows, Book of Boba Fett. The animated series calls back are fine in short, but not like this. He's a good looking lad. Right, let's finish this one off. Each new episode of this season hasn't shield away from the fact that it's pulling stuff straight from the Clone Wars and Rebels. If done correctly, this isn't an issue. I agree, because there were some fantastic plot points in the Clone Wars especially. The Rebels, not so much. You know, that was more to do with Maul and Obi-Wan. Whereas the Clone Wars was about Ahsoka Tano and Darth Maul and Order 66. I mean, that was done a bit rushed at the end, but you get my point. The series already brought Ahsoka Tano into live action, which was an incredible episode, mind you, from these roots, but spent so much time explaining to her that she never felt out of place. Now, though, there are constant background references to these shows and characters appearing where it has become too much all at once. There's no easy way to lose a viewer's interest than making them feel isolated. Yeah, that's a bit of a unnecessary point to make. Again, not everyone has seen these shows, let alone in their entirety. While seeing Zeb in live action was a thrill for some, many had no payoff from that character. The same goes for the Pearl Girls at the beginning of the season. Yeah, these are a couple of, I think these are more the Rebels references as opposed to the Clone Wars. I mean, I can only remember the high-level stuff from when I used to watch the Clone Wars on Disney+. So it does sound like we're tapping into more of the Rebels lore there and not other Star Wars lore. With Ahsoka getting her own series later this year, there's going to be plenty more being pulled from that animated universe. The references being made in The Mandalorian may have been suited for that show rather than one that had been transcended by fandom by bringing many viewers who knew nothing prior about Star Wars. This, again, was one of the great reasons why Mandalorian Season 1 was so good. It was simple, it was easy to get on board with. Bringing in things like Ahsoka Tano and Luke Skywalker has only made this better in my eyes, because you need to have Jedis for Star Wars to be what, you know, you need to have Jedis for Star Wars to be incredible. Just keeping Mandalorian as gunslinging and cowboys and Star Wars in space was good, but without Jedis, it felt slightly less. To go to that next tier, they needed to bring in Ahsoka, they needed to bring in Luke, they needed to bring in lightsabers, they needed to bring in Jedis, they needed to bring in all of that to make this just that next tier. The more this show litters the story with prior knowledge, the more likely it is to deter casuals who feel they're beginning to enter a show where they'll be lost. Now, I agree with that point, but any reference to previous lore just needs to be done in a good way, or it needs to be simplified, or it needs to be woven into the story that it's not critical for the normies to have known what's gone on before. The MCU did this in such a good way that bringing in lore from previous, new or previous story arcs was done so successfully. It was done so simply, and it brought the normies on board as well. Finding that balance is something that many franchises are attempting to do now. The MCU have done that really well. I thought that Mandalorian has done this really well so far. Not too much to be said for Season 3. Marvel is among those leading the idea of crossing mediums, and so far has seen mixed results. It has seen mixed results because it has done a pretty shit job in Seasons 4. It's done a pretty shit job in Phase 4 from what we've seen in Phase 5 so far. We'll see if this true hinders the Mandalorian moving forward, or if the references are subtle enough that casuals aren't pulling away. Maybe the cutscenes of Grogu alone can keep everyone who tapped into this show with no history to this universe on board. The Mandalorian releases new episodes every Wednesday on Disney+. I'm looking forward to watching this. I'm looking forward to doing reviews for you all. And I'm looking forward to looking at, seeing some of the great Darksaber scenes that I've seen some of the Jedi scenes that I've seen the Mandalorian as well, because he kicks some serious ass in seasons 1 and 2. But I'm also looking forward to kind of cherry picking some of the negatives as well, and giving you all my thoughts on what's good, what's bad, what I'd like to see in the next episode. So hopefully I can get round to watching that. Now, that's the end of that one. I think we will end with... Let's see if we can blitz through this article from The Hollywood Reporter. You've probably all seen that from various loads of other scoopers and YouTubers have done their piece on Victoria Alonso. So basically she was... well, we'll go into it. I'm sure the article will touch on this, but essentially this came out of nowhere as well. Marvel Studios veteran Victoria Alonso exits Marvel Studios. She has served as executive producer on its title since the first Avengers movie. Victoria Alonso, the long-time and high-profile Marvel Studios executive whose time with the company dates back to the first Iron Man, has left the studio, multiple sources tell The Hollywood Reporter. The reason for the exit are unclear, and I'll get into my thoughts why I think she's exited. But she parted ways with Marvel on Friday. Now, I think this article was from a couple of weeks ago. Yeah, March 20th. So we're a bit late to the game, but I thought it was something we'd bring to the channel. Alonso has been with the company since the earliest days of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, establishing an inevitable 17-year run and watching the studio grow from operating above a Mercedes-Benz dealership in Beverly Hills to being acquired by Disney. During her tenure, the MCU became the highest grossing franchise in film history. Well, that's on the decline. Partly due to her, from what I understand, and her poor decision making. I think they've just had enough of the shit and the wokeness and the identity politics and real bad negative ways that she brings to the table. And ultimately, a lot of her decisions, from what I'm aware, have contributed to the absolute disaster that was Phase 4. So it's no surprise to me that Alonso has been let go by Marvel. Now, that's not to say that Kevin Feige isn't equally, up on the chopping block for Phase 4 as well, because he's obviously signed off on some of the decisions she's made. So it's 6 of one, half a dozen the other, but she's the one bringing these shitty ideas to the table in my eyes. So Alonso joined the studio in 2006 as chief of visual effects and post-production, has helped launch the Marvel Cinematic Universe as co-producer on 2008's Iron Man. She also served as co-producer on Iron Man 2, Thor, Captain America. Alonso was up to executive producer to The Avengers, the landmark film that grossed $1.5 billion, that topped Marvel to new heights. Alonso has served as executive producer on Marvel's subsequent releases and also worked on its Disney Plus TV series. In 2021, she was promoted to president, physical and post-production, visual effects and animation production. Last year, she also produced the Oscar-nominated international feature Argentina. Now, that's typically actually one of the reasons why I think she's been let go, is because of a breach of contract where she's not meant to have been producing other films for other producers. So that's one of the critical reasons, from what I'm understanding, is why she was let go. Her departure comes in the shadow of Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania's poor showing at the box office and among critics and fans. I mean, no doubt that she had something to do with the poor quality that we saw in Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. It was a disaster of the film. Go and check out our review on the channel, because we break it down bit by bit as to, you know, what the good pieces were, but what all the shit was that we got from the film. In addition to her behind-the-scenes work, Alonso has been an important ambassador for the studio's representation efforts and was outspoken during Disney's dispute with Florida over its Don't Say Gay bill. As long as I am in Marvel Studios, I will fight for representation. Now, look, you know, representation is good, but it's not a worthwhile, profitable business strategy, and that's where I think Alonso tried to take Marvel, is down the identity politics, woke representation route. And it's clear that by putting this at the forefront, it's not a profitable trait. We've seen countless times over Phase 4 across both TV shows and films that this wasn't the correct direction to take. Probably she had nothing to do with Spider-Man No Way Home, and that's why it was a critical success. I think it's grossed over $2 billion now. The rest of it was utter shit. Phase 4 can almost be forgotten. The TV shows, you know, WandaVision started decent. Loki was all right. The rest were utter jokes. All the rest of the films, apart from Spider-Man No Way Home, absolute joke. And you can tell she's been let go because the last roll of the dice was Ant-Man Quantumania, and that was a critical disaster, a box office disaster as well. So I am not surprised she has been let go here. Now, a few reasons why I've heard she's been let go. Partly because of her role in producing Argentina, partly because of her decision-making to go down the representation, identity politics, woke direction for Marvel, and that hasn't been a profitable success. Partly because she's a pain in the arse to work with. Partly because some of the higher-ups in Disney, you know, Bob Iger has had a real bad time in dealing with some of her antics, decision-making, just the way she works. He hasn't had a good time with her. And partly because they need to cost cut, Disney does. And I think she's one of these people that doesn't need to be there. If they've got Kevin Feige running the show, why do they need Alonso? So it could be one of them. It could be something else. Now, I have got a fifth and final article, and we go back to the direct. Now, I think we'll wrap up this week's JGITW in the Week with looking at Disney Plus rumours as to MCU Phase 5 release windows, signalling big delays. This is music to my ears. There's a lot of shit in Phase 4, and arguably there's some equally bad stuff coming in Phase 5. Now, one of the previous JGITW in the Weeks we did covered a lot of the rumours around Phase 5 delays. Here, we're going to be diving into new evidence of Phase 5 delays coming to you from the direct. Disney Plus just made a big change on its website that heavily affects the release timeline of the MCU's upcoming Phase 5 streaming shows. After The Marvels was delayed to November from July, many fans wondered if more Phase 5 products will be further pushed down the slate. I absolutely hope they are, because if we look at these, Ant-Man, Wasp, Quantumania, crap. Guardians of the Galaxy, well, if it's as good as, you know, Volume 1, okay, looking forward to that. If it's as good as Volume 2, not so much looking forward to that. If it's the crap that we've seen in Phase 4, definitely not looking forward to that. Loki Season 2, I mean, that's going to have a lot of Kang shenanigans going on, so it's probably worth watching that, even though it will be disappointing, I reckon, like Season 1 was. Blade, I don't even think that's got a script or a producer or a director yet, something on the lines. Agatha the Coven of Chaos, we don't even need that needs to be cancelled. Captain America New World Order, that could arguably be really good. That could arguably be an Avengers level event, like a Civil War level event, or that could be an absolute disaster and utter shit like we got in The Falcon and the Winter Soldier. So we'll see about that one. It's interesting that a lot of the crap that has been told that we're going to get in Phase 5 has either been pushed back or probably cancelled or shelved to the point that it's delayed inevitably. It was previously reported that a number of Phase 5 MCU shows would be delayed, with some even being pushed out of this year's lineup. Well, I think we'll get onto this, but things like Echo, Ironheart, the Marvels, they're three woke, identity politics-driven, representation-driven shows, arguably, that have tried to replace previous characters that I think will be cancelled. Moreover, Marvel Studios UK also removed a promo that highlighted Phase 5 releases this year, strongly indicating that delays are inevitable. Good. I say good. This is a good thing. I would rather delay stuff, focus on quality, drop the quantity crap that we've seen, and go back to the original model, what we saw in Phases 1 to 3, focusing on quality over quantity, and giving us, 3, maybe 4 pieces of content each year, whether that's film or TV show now. Disney reveals new evidence of Phase 5 delays. I mean, look at that. That Phase 5 schedule looks a lot lighter than what we've seen before. Disney's official website changed the release window of several MCU Disney Plus shows from Phase 5 to coming soon, indicating that the show could be delayed alongside shifts in Marvel's upcoming schedule. 2023 was supposed to be a big year for the MCU as it marks the start of Phase 5 with 3 movies and 5 Disney Plus shows. I mean, that sounds like they're still focusing on quantity over quality there. 8 shows, my God, that's a lot of content. And the fact that they're doing more content means to push it out quicker, which means arguably we're probably likely to get crap as opposed to good stuff. However, given that the studio was unhappy with Phase 4 due to the negative feedback, Marvel Studios and Disney are reportedly re-evaluating the future releases of future projects. What If Season 2? Yeah, this is another thing that could be dropped or could be made a hell of a lot better. Right, I think we're going to go through all of the supposed either drops or what was on Phase 5 schedule that is now just coming soon. So, What If Season 2? One of the first dominoes to fall is What If Season 2, with it being officially delayed after its early 2023 tag was changed to coming soon. That's a good thing, because arguably there were some decent episodes in Season 1, but some of them were either woke, driven by identity politics, or poorly done. I thought the last episode was poorly done. I mean, Ultron, with all of the Infinity Stones and the power of the multiverse, he ain't being stopped by anyone. Echo, another piece of crap content that we don't need, I don't even know anything about, and that is probably going to spoil anything we get from Daredevil. Hawkeye spin-off Echo also suffered a big delay. Good. This is a good thing. We don't want this crap. We need to drop all this crap and we need to focus on good quality, positive storylines that are going to contribute to the overall arc of the Kang, maybe the multiverse, big bad boss story arc, as we've got from Phases 1 to 3 previously. All of that stuff focused on building up towards this Thanos level event. A lot of these badly done, supposedly crap stuff like Agatha, Echo, Ironheart, they're all not contributing to the overall narrative. Agatha Coven of Chaos, we don't need this. This can be dropped as well. Agatha Coven of Chaos was rumored to Agatha Coven of Chaos was rumoured to release after Daredevil Born Again, which is likely sometime in 2025. Yeah, that'll be dropped. Loki Season 2, initially slated to premiere this summer. Loki Season 2's latest coming soon tag hinted a concerning update for the Tom Hiddleston-led series. Now, yes, we saw this at the end of Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania in the post-credits scene, but arguably, Loki Season 1 was a failure in my eyes. It was bad, it was crap. It was about Sylvie. It was hardly anything to do with Loki. So, we've seen a few snippets now and again, and we've heard a lot about it, but they need to up the game with some of these Disney Plus shows. It is possible that the show, i.e. Loki Season 2, could be bumped further down the slate, potentially eyeing a much later release date this year, such as fall or winter. As long as it's good, it doesn't matter when it comes out, really. Now, this is the one I'm interested in, X-Men 97. Massive fan of this beforehand. X-Men 97 head writer Bo DeMayo previously claimed that the animated Marvel show is still slated to release this fall on Disney+, but this new update could signal a change of plans for the project. I don't see this tying in with the grander Kang the Conqueror multiverse narrative. I think this is going to be kind of like an Elseworlds side of desk project, just continuing what we've saw with the animated Marvel show from before. Ironheart, another piece of crap content we don't need, another badly done rip-off of Iron Man, trying to push this narrative that we don't want. No one wants this, Marvel. Just axe it and push your money into something that we do want. Ironheart already wrapped production, but this new update could mean that it will be part of the delays, with it potentially eyeing an early 2024 premiere instead of a full 2023 timeline. Good. This is a good thing. Get this one cancelled. Usually, shows that get delayed multiple times, as a lot of these have been, get cancelled. Please, Marvel, do not massacre my boy. Daredevil was arguably the greatest thing you've done. Period. For Marvel. Greatest thing you've done. Seasons 1 to 3, masterful television. Now, whether that was more Netflix rather than Marvel, I don't know. But masterful television. I've got a feeling that the Disney Plus version of this is going to be a PG version, which is not good. I mean, look at the crap that they give us in She-Hulk with Daredevil. They absolutely obliterated him. Do not kill Matt Murdock, please. I mean, figuratively and metaphorically, do not destroy him, please, because he's one of the only cool things that is left in the MCU. Daredevil Born Again is in the midst of filming in New York, which is expected to be ongoing production for a good chunk of the year. While it is set to premiere in spring 24, a delay could push it to 25 to accommodate the other shows that have already been moved. I don't think that will be the case. I think Marvel see this as a one of their flagship shows. I mean, arguably, you could have at some point the Marvel street level Avengers and the Marvel super duper Avengers. You know, street level being Spider-Man, Captain America, the Winter Soldier, Daredevil, She-Hulk, and you could have the supernatural ones with Doctor Strange, maybe Wong. I'm struggling now because there ain't many left. Thor, Loki, you could put in that. You know, you could arguably have two types of Avengers. Spider-Man Freshman Year. This is the first I've heard about a new Spider-Man project. Spider-Man Freshman Year is rumoured to be eyeing a late 24 release, which is still in line with Marvel Studios' announcement during the San Diego Comic-Con 2022 that it will premiere during that year. Well, that's an interesting one. I mean, arguably now, whilst it hasn't been suggested, Peter Parker, i.e. Spider-Man, is a flagship Avenger now. He has gone from, you know, side of desk to arguably one of, if not the leading Avenger character. Secret Invasion. Now this is one of, if not the most important / most anticipated show for me on Disney Plus. Even the most anticipated piece of content that Disney will push this year. It looks badass. The trailer looks sick. If we get another trailer, I'm definitely going to do a review. Secret Invasion is currently slated for Spring 23 release, and some have theorised that it will be Marvel's first Disney Plus show to premiere this year, potentially after The Mandalorian Season 3's current run. However, due to this new update, it could be pushed back as well as to this year's summer or fall, after some have pointed out that Phase 5 is off to a bad start with Ant-Man 3's negative reviews. Marvel Studios' host of delays may end up being a good thing. I absolutely think it is a good thing due to overwhelming number of content from Phase 5. Yep, scrap all the crap, focus on the quality stuff, rewrite some stuff if you have to, make sure everything contributes to the overarching narrative, and let's make Marvel MCU Phase 5 and Phase 6 bangers, just like we got in Phases 1 to 3. Overall, taking a step back could be the key to finding the right formula and consistency in order to replicate what the MCU had during the Infinity Saga. I could not agree more. Please listen to the direct Disney Marvel and focus on quality over quantity, please. Right, folks, that's it for this week. jikGeek in the week. We've been through everything. We've been through the House of the Dragon news. That season 2 is only getting 8 episodes. We've been through what was arguably a massive spanner in the works for Marvel Studios in Jonathan Majors' arrest. We've been through and some of the options around what could happen if that, you know, that seems to be a bad thing. That could end up being a complete disaster for Marvel and the MCU. We've been through why The Mandalorian Season 3 seems to be on a bit of a downfall in Season 3. We've also been through Victoria Alonso's sudden shocker exit from Marvel and what that could only really mean a positive step forward for Marvel and a turning page for Marvel. This is definitely a turning page for Marvel going forward. This means better quality. This means less woke, less identity politics. And this means better for Marvel Phase 5 and Phase 6. I can guarantee it. And then we finished off with more rumours of Marvel Phase 5 release window. Some of the poorer entries being shelved or being delayed or being curbed either this year or subsequent years. Great stream. Great to have you with us. Looking forward to the next one. Thanks again for all the views, the subscribes, the comments, the likes, the love. Feeling the love so, at the moment. If you've joined us in the chat, it's been amazing to have you with us. Drop a like, drop a comment, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you next time. Thanks again. Take care. Bye for now.